You ever notice how some people just seem to effortlessly control situations? They're never in a rush, they're never flustered, but things just seem to bend their way. Well, today, we're diving into the secret behind that. It's a really powerful and kind of counterintuitive strategy for making other people play your game on your turf. Does this feel a little too familiar? You're constantly putting out fires, always reacting instead of directing things. It's that exhausting feeling of being perpetually one step behind, right? Whether it's in a big negotiation at work or just a simple disagreement at home, it's a major drain, and honestly, it's a huge sign that you're not the one in control.
So why does this keep happening? Well, it boils down to what we can call the control problem. And really, it's all about a fundamental misunderstanding of what power actually looks like in action.
Yeah, we're often taught that to be in control, you gotta be the aggressor. Make the first move, push the hardest, be the loudest person in the room. But this constant forward motion, it can easily turn into this frantic chase where we're just reacting to the new problems we ourselves are creating. Just think about it for a second. When you're constantly on the attack, you can't possibly anticipate every single consequence. You end up creating new rivals, and then you're forced to react to their countermoves. Your own aggressive energy gets flipped and used against you, and pretty soon you're just burning through your resources trying to stay afloat.
Okay, so if constant aggression isn't the answer, what is? Well, that brings us to the strategic solution. You've got to use bait. The core idea here is so simple, it's almost deceptive. True power isn't about chasing people down. It's about making them come to you. You set the bait. Maybe it's an irresistible offer, a tempting opportunity, and they drop their own plans to come after it. And the second they step onto your playing field, guess what? You hold all the cards.
It really all comes down to initiative. When other people are forced to react to your moves, they're always on the defensive. They're trying to guess your next step. Meanwhile, you're calmly executing a plan that they can't even see.
All right, let's see this in action with a perfect historical example, the final downfall of one of the most aggressive figures in all of history, Napoleon Bonaparte.
So here's the quick timeline. Napoleon gets exiled, but then, in this totally stunning move, he escapes, returns to France, and seizes power for what's now called the 100 Days, only to be completely crushed for good at Waterloo. Now, on the surface, this looks like a classic, daring Napoleon move. But was it? From Napoleon's point of view, he was the master of his own destiny, for sure. People who visited him on his island prison were telling him how much France missed him. He got tipped off that the guards might just happen to look the other way. He saw what he thought was a golden opportunity, and he seized it, thinking he was outsmarting everybody. But here's the crazy reality. That entire escape, it was a setup. The guy pulling the strings was his own former minister, Talleyrand. See, Talleyrand knew that as long as Napoleon was just sitting on Elba, Europe would never be stable. He needed him gone, permanently.
And what's so brilliant about this is how Talleyrand used knowledge as his weapon. He knew Napoleon's ego was his biggest weakness, and he knew France was completely exhausted, both financially and militarily, so he dangled the perfect bait, the promise of a glorious return. He knew Napoleon couldn't resist it, and he knew Napoleon would be leading a bankrupt country into a war he had absolutely no chance of winning.
Talleyrand's genius wasn't in being aggressive. It was in his patience. And this whole principle of laying the perfect bait, of letting other people defeat themselves, it shows up everywhere, from the grand stage of history right down to our everyday lives.
Here's a beautifully simple example. You see a sign that warns you about pickpockets. What's your first, totally unconscious reaction? You pat your pocket or check your bag, right? Just to make sure your wallet is safe. In that single moment, you've just broadcasted the exact location of your valuables to anyone who's watching. The sign was the bait.
Or think about this on a massive scale. During the Russo-Japanese War, the Japanese Navy baited the much stronger Russian fleet into sailing over 6,000 extra miles. By the time the Russians finally arrived, their crews were totally exhausted, their supplies were running low, and the well-rested Japanese forces just annihilated them. They made their enemy waste all their energy just getting to the fight. This quote from Bismarck just captures the mindset perfectly. It's not about jumping at the very first opportunity. It's about strategic patience, waiting for that perfect moment when your opponent is fully committed and at their most vulnerable. But, and this is super critical, baiting and waiting isn't always the right move. Sometimes patience is a losing game. There are definitely times when you have to do the exact opposite and strike first. So, how do you choose? Well, on one hand, if you've got bait and wait. This is your go-to when time is on your side and you can let your enemy wear themselves out. But on the other hand, if time is against you, like if your opponent is getting stronger every second, you need strike and shock. This is a fast, decisive attack that doesn't give them a moment to think. It's the very strategy Napoleon himself used so effectively in his early career. The legendary boxer Joe Louis summed up this reversal perfectly. When you've got the advantage and your opponent is on the ropes, you press that advantage. You force the issue and you end the fight quickly on your terms. So it all comes back to this one central question of control, doesn't it? When do you bait and when do you strike? How do you make sure that it's your move and not theirs? This ancient wisdom really gets to the heart of it. The ultimate goal is always to use your strength, your fullness, against their weakness, their emptiness. Whether you get there by patiently luring them into a trap or by a swift, shocking attack, the core principle is the same. You have to control the terms of the engagement. And really, that's the ultimate takeaway. In any situation you're in, a high-stakes business deal, a team project, even just navigating daily life, take a second and ask yourself this one question. Are you setting the board and making the moves, forcing others to react? Or are you just a piece on someone else's board, being moved around by a strategy you can't even see? The answer to that determines who truly holds the power,